Hi, everyone. Just wanted to let you all know we are going to be giving a couple minutes to let everybody filter in, and then we will get it started.
I've got an old shirt on because I wore my new one yesterday. So represent.
Maybe we'll give another 60 seconds or so, and we will get this thing going. I know it's till 2 o'clock. Want to make sure we have enough time to
I actually
cover
think we
cover
just have a
everything.
half hour, right?
Oh yes, excuse me. Oh my
Yeah,
God, I thought it was
yeah,
1:30. Sorry. Till 1:30.
yep,
Sorry
yep,
about that. For
yeah.
the correction. I was thinking it was 1:30 right now. I guess that was just yeah, just wasn't thinking there.
No worries.
Tom, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you,
Okay.
Colin. Yep.
All right. Sounds good.
Well, in the interest of time, we might want to get going unless you see a bunch
Yes.
of people still joining.
Yeah. So, Tom, do you want me to start sharing the slides?
I can do that.
Okay.
If you want to, if you have an
Yeah.
intro or anything, or we can
Yeah.
jump right in.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just wanted to quickly thank everybody for coming to this session today. It is greatly appreciated. I'm here with. My name is Matt Gianoni. First of all, I'm a customer success manager in the higher education vertical. Um, Today, I have Tom Scarlett here with me from the University of Connecticut Foundation. He is the director of programming services at the University of Connecticut Foundation, and then Colin Budd, who is on Tom's team, and he is a senior software developer at the University of Connecticut Foundation. So, thank you both for presenting here. Thank you all for joining us today. And Tom, I will kick it over. Oh, and one thing, just to mention really quick. We are going to try and save the questions until the end of this presentation. So please ask the questions, but if we may be getting to it at the end of the presentation, just so Tom and Colin have enough time to get through everything.
Great. Thanks, Matt. All right, I'm going to try sharing this and see. Let me know if you can see that, Matt, and then we'll keep going.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, great. So welcome, everybody. I won't spend much time on that slide. Before we jump into kind of the customization that we wanted to present on, I just gave you a little bit of background about our environment. We've been on BBCRM for a long time, 2013. We're currently version 4, Service Pack 34. We are self-hosted. We've always been self-hosted, but we moved from on-prem literal boxes in our office to Azure a few years ago, and we really have enjoyed that. But we are technically still self-hosted. We are not hosted by Blackbaud. You may hear us refer to something called Uconn. That's a database that we built back before 2013 because the Blackbaud data warehouse was not really ready to go at that point. We do not use the Blackbaud data warehouse. So that's, if you hear that, that's what we're talking about. We've got just under 1 million constituents, about 2.5 million revenue transactions. And myself and Colin and a few other developers handle all of the interfaces, the reports, customizations, smart design, et cetera. Anything that has to go in and out of CRM or has to be done to it, that's what our team takes care of. We also have 2 awesome business analysts. I don't think they're on this call, but they do a lot of the more kind of intricate specification building and work with our end users for bigger projects and customizations. What else? This just give you a quick look at our kind of technical environment. Each developer has their own VM in Azure. It's so easy to spin up. We all have our own copy of CRM. We do our development there. We've got a continuous integration model where we check in the code, it gets pushed up to QA, to pre-production, et cetera, et cetera. But nothing super exciting here. We do have PaperSave, which is a document imaging system. That does not impact the customization we're going to talk about today, but I just wanted to mention it because it's hanging out on that slide. So that's kind of a little bit about our organization. Talking now about what we were doing as far as this customization, specifically about our prospect data. So where we're at as an organization is we're kind of in the quiet leadership phase of a campaign. We're going to launch it publicly very soon, hopefully in July of 2024. We have about 65 full-time fundraisers, which actually is a little small, I think, compared to some of our peers, but that's what we have. We worked in the last year or two with a consultant to identify what they called a strike zone set of prospects, and basically look at all of our prospects and tell us, are they in this strike zone based on a number of factors or not? And then we wanted to overhaul fundraiser caseloads to align with the results of that effort, which meant a lot of work to kind of revamp 65 different fundraisers caseloads in a short amount of time. And we didn't want this to be a one time and done thing. We want to be able to continuously be able to easily kind of tweak caseloads as necessary. And we really haven't had an easy way to do that. So that's kind of how this started. And then two other things happened. We started a digital engagement officer program in early 2023, just with 2 DXOs. These are folks that are doing a lot of cold calling. They had huge caseloads, like 1,300 people. They're basically qualifying prospects and handing them off for the most part. But we needed to get these folks up and running, get them a caseload assigned quickly, and then kind of keep churning through those as we need to replace their caseloads, as well as if we bring on new DXOs. We're also reviewing all of our development officer caseloads and really needed a utility to make it efficient and easy to manage those, not let prospects fall through the cracks and not end up with stale caseloads, which is something we had been struggling with. So why did we want to go out and create a utility to do this? Why is it a big deal? There's a lot of things you have to touch. If you're familiar with Blackbaud CRM, you probably understand all this, no problem. But there's a lot of things that go into the prospect world. Some of them are out of the box things. Some of them are customizations or extensions that we've done at Uconn to meet our own business needs. And this is not a complete list, but it's a kind of the guts of all the things that go into editing a caseload. So that's a lot of stuff. It's not a big deal if you're doing a few prospects at a time, but if you've got 100 or 150 prospects times 65 fundraisers, it becomes too time consuming to do this all by hand. There are some out of the box features with CRM. You may have already said, why didn't you use these? And we looked at them. The first one was the feature that assigns prospects in bulk, which basically moves from one fundraiser to another, or you can use it to unassign from one fundraiser. Great utility. We definitely wanted that feature, but it didn't do everything we needed. Second one was the feature that's managing prospects and plans in bulk, and that was running on a selection, which is another thing we wanted as a requirement. It does create plan, manager, secondary solicitors, etc. Adds plan steps, template opportunity, etc. We don't use a lot of that stuff. We handle plans differently. We actually hide the plan from all of our users inside of Blackbaud CRM. It still exists because so many things are driven off of it. But that particular tool wasn't going to meet every one of our needs. So we looked at these. We wanted to steal the best parts of both of them, but then move forward with our own kind of custom utility. And when I say we, I really mean Colin, because Colin did all the work on this, and I'm just talking about it. So when we have questions at the end, we're going to make sure that Colin can chime in and respond to those. So what was wanted? You know, the prospect management folks wanted more of a workflow look and feel. We wanted to cover all those points from our Uconn specific customizations or whatever, as well as take care of all the required components that we have to set to make the prospect area work as intended in Blackbaud CRM. We want to be able to run it off a selection or do a lookup, type in IDs, find people, etc. We also wanted multiple prospect research officers to be able to be in here doing this at the same time and be able to look at just their list versus their colleagues' list as they work through a different set of prospects and fundraisers. And the big key at the last bullet on there, assignment review. We want to be able to review what's going to happen and see side by side, this is what I'm going to do row by row, as well as be able to override if existing data is out there that conflicts with what you're trying to assign. And I'm going to show you all this in a minute when we do some walk through the screenshots. All right, so here we are. The rest of this slideshow is really just a demo of screenshots. We'll talk through how these things work. At the top, you can see there's some tabs. This bulk assignment list tab, that's kind of the starting point. And there's a list builder on there that makes it easier for the end user to kind of deal with the data once they get data in there. Once they process those, and I'm going to walk through this in a second, they move over to this assignment review tab if any conflicts are identified, or they just get marked completed if there's no conflicts and all of the assignments went through as expected. So how does this thing work, and what kind of features did we build in? If I wanted to start off, I want to add some folks into my grid here and start working with them. And I know this might be difficult to see, so I'll kind of walk you through what's going on. At the top, there's a selection option. So if you want to do a bulk assignment, that's the easiest way to start, is with a selection. When you pick one from that selection list, it's going to go out, the UI model is going to go out and interrogate that list and tell you how many constituents are on it. So if you're expecting 4 and you get 2,000, you're going to know it before you go much further. You're not going to have to undo anything, kind of let you know what you're dealing with right from the get-go. And then on the left-hand side, you can check off which of these data points for all of your new assigned prospects do you want to adjust or set. Prospect manager, status, plan, prospect stage, research rating, the prospect constituency is required, so there's not a lot that you would do to that. A new lead attribute, and whether or not you want to have spouse constituency and status set. Along with each of those, when you decide which ones you want to deal with, you can give it a new value that you want to use. And on the far side, you'll see there's an override option for each of those fields. And that comes into play when we want to either just process stuff, or we want to provide ourselves the opportunity to review those. So if you do not check override, more stuff is going to end up on that review tab. And that's on purpose, because that was one of the big requirements that our prospect management folks wanted. Colin, do you have anything to add to that before I move on to the next slide?
No, I think that sounds great.
All right, great. All righty. So I picked that list. It had 4 prospects in it. They show up in that assignment list tab. And if I click on one of row, that's what this kind of exploded view is. It's going to show you field by field, all the data elements, whether or not you had checked that you wanted to set that value, whether or not you chose to automatically override if there is existing data, the target value, and the existing value in the database if there is one. And again, this is available on every single row in this grid. And this is the place to make edits. This is the place to say, ooh, you know what? I want to remove this row from my list and deal with them later. Or I want to go make changes to a record and kind of handle those bits before I try to make these assignments. You can, and I know you can see these buttons on here, you can process one assignment at a time. You can also process the entire grid. Maybe you've got hundreds of rows on there and you've checked them all and you're ready to do them all. Or you can, it's difficult to see, but on this background image, you can see there's a checkbox next to each row in that list builder, because we've set up some of those actions for processing to allow you to multi-select. So you can do them all, you can do one at a time, or you can multi-select which ones you want to process when. If you wanted to add more, so I've got this 4 initial prospects, and they're all going to get assigned to Colin as the prospect manager. I can add more to my list and continue working on it. I don't have to stop there. I can mix and match different fundraiser assignments if I want to, if that's appropriate. Because maybe you're starting out with a list of specific, these 40 prospects and you want to divvy them up to 4 different fundraisers, you can do that way, as opposed to starting with a fundraiser and working through all of his or her prospects. So here's another list. Different prospect manager, different settings, different override options. When this list is saved, it's going to take those override options and those values along with it and put it in that same list. So once you do that, now I've got 8 rows in there assigned to 2 different prospect managers with different values and different overrides, etc. I can keep adding to the list. Maybe I want to manually add a couple prospects at this point. What does that look like? If you hit the manual add, you get a search that can pop up. And you can assign a particular manager. You get the same checkboxes for override. And you basically build out that collection of individuals manually. And Colin implemented some code there, whereas if you type in a name that is a direct match, it's not going to pop up that search box. It's just going to say, oh, yep, that's a fundraiser. I'm going to just drop them in. Things like that, just to make it a little easier for the end users. So I've got 2 more folks in here with 2 different prospect managers. If I go back to that assignment list, you can see now I've got 10 folks. I've got 4 different total prospect managers that are going to get assigned to these various folks. At this point, I might just process all of them. And you'll see at the top, 10 are in my total assignment list. 10 still require processing. I haven't reviewed any and none have been marked complete. Once I hit that process all button, it's going to interrogate each of these and decide whether or not any of them meet the threshold that needs manual review to show up on that assignment review tab. So I click that. Turns out I didn't have any conflicts. I will go back and address what conflicts look like. We're going to do that next. But in this case, all 10 of them, because of the overrides that were selected, there was no reason that we had to review any of those. You can leave those folks out on this completed assignments list builder. You can leave them out there as long as you want. But if you're dealing with kind of keeping track of what have you done and what have you have left to do, Colin built in the feature to kind of mark these as archived once they're completed. So if you're truly done with a set, you can archive them and just basically move them off that tab onto this archived tab, just for kind of just workload management. All right, what does that look like when you're in that completed step? This tells you the whole story about what happened. For every single row, you're going to get all of this information. What was the result? Did data get added? Did it get ignored? Did it get updated? What was the target value, the original value? And what does that record look like after processing? So this is a nice way to kind of see and verify that what you thought was going to happen actually happened. And again, that's available on every single row. Warnings. Okay, so if I go back and start over on another set, I put in 2 prospects here that I knew already had assignments, and they're very active prospects in our system. So a couple of things happened. And I clicked on that first row, and you can see it says there's a warning: the constituent has an open opportunity or is a participant on a plan with an open opportunity. At this point, you may want to stop, obviously, and either remove them from that opportunity, close the opportunity, decide what you're going to do. But that's why these kind of gates are in here, to keep you from monkeying up the data too bad. You can see the override is turned off on all of these things, and that was on purpose because I wanted to give myself as much flexibility to do as much review as possible, because I knew the folks I put in this list were very active already. So I didn't want to take the chance on messing something up. If I want to, though, go ahead and process these. I'll show you what the assignment review tab ends up looking like. So both of those ended up getting processed. One is still left to be processed. Sorry, I think I just processed the one. And this is the one that is ending up on the review tab. And I kind of highlighted in this result column here, there's 3 things that are being flagged as conflicting. And because I didn't set that override, I've got to come in here and make a choice. I either accept the old value or I override the old value with the new proposed value. And that's what the buttons up here, I don't know if you can see those too well, but I can override the manager, the status, the stage, the research rating individually, and those will turn on and off based on the data in the grid and whether or not that's appropriate for this particular row that was selected. So at this point, the prospect manager or research officer, excuse me, would decide what they're going to do with this, override or not, and then mark this row as complete. Let's see, once you do that, just another screenshot to let you know after the fact, now this has been completed and you can go back and see, okay, I did override those 3 bits and move them. You know, in this case, I changed the prospect manager, which is a big deal. I changed the stage and I also changed the research rating. I don't know why I would have done that. It's just an example. But you do have full history, full audit trail of not only what happened, but also who did it. The processing user obviously is going to be stamped on all of these. So you can always go back and talk to that particular staff member if there's a problem that comes up with a caseload assignment. Colin, I've been talking a lot here, man. You jump in if you want me to back up.
Let me say a couple of things then.
Yeah, please do.
The way it was designed is that, you know, we've been looking at, you know, setting the majority of the data elements through this process. This process will manage one element. So if you have a bunch of prospects and all you want to do is change the research rating, then you can ignore everything but the research rating and go in and change those. So any combination of the fields are available to you. And Tom, would you mind going back to the manual
Sure.
entry?
The search?
Yeah, the manual entry one where, yes, the search, yep.
Okay, I think it's this one. Nope. Sorry. One more. There it is.
There we go. There we go. So what we've actually done here is the upper area is the defaults. And then the lower is actually the matrix where you add in the prospects that you want to process. So the defaults, if you enter a default ahead of time, there's a prospect manager entered in there and there's a status and stage. Every ID, every prospect you add will automatically inherit that value in the grid. So it gives you the choice of coming in and saying, maybe I don't want to set any, I've got 4 people, I don't want to set any defaults. I'm going to hand enter every element in the grid. You can do that. Or if all of them are going to have the same prospect manager status, you set the default and you run through them. And obviously 4 sort of doesn't demonstrate the, you know, the power of it. It's more if maybe if you're hand entering 20. But you can change that default halfway through. And any row that you enter after that will adopt that new default. But at the end of the day, once you've actually maybe filled out, you got 20 or 30 in there, you can go in and you can change individually any element that you want. And then it'll take it through to the screen that we saw where you can then choose to process. So there's a lot of power in this one. In fact, this was more of a secondary piece when we were designing it, but it ended up in a way a lot more powerful because now we have the ability for folks to say really quickly, I got 4 prospects I need to assign. They can go in and do them very, very quickly here. They don't even need to bother with the selection. So I think at the end of the day, this is probably, you know, the more powerful piece. And one other point about the archiving, there is a little bit more logic in that, and that is that you cannot reintroduce a prospect into this bulk assignment if they're in any phase that is prior to archiving. So if you do that, it will fail. And I think Tom, maybe I'm jumping the gun. I think there is a slide coming up. We also adapted this to run right at the constituent level.
There you go. That was my next slide.
There we go. There's no override here because this is at the constituent level. And sorry, there's no option to choose whether to override or not. You see the existing values, you cherry pick what you want to change. But this ties into the bulk assignment process. So that if you go to try and make a change at the constituent level to a constituent that is already involved, that's in progress on the bulk side, it'll give you an error message and say you can't and that way we prevent, multiple people maybe changing values, to different values or whatever. So that was sort of a tail end piece that I think has added some power to the whole thing.
Awesome. Thanks, Colin. I think we only have a couple other slides, and we're not going to go through this. Just wanted to give you a sense of kind of the scope or size of what was behind this. Various data forms, list builders, pages, record operations, etc. It's all built with the SDK. Colin did everything in here, including the UI model and the HTML work, VB work as well, for some of the kind of behind the scenes logic and swoopy stuff that happens when you type something in and tab off of it to kind of initiate some things. I think we're kind of at the end. Are there any questions that have come up, Matt, that you might want to highlight?
No, just compliments for you,
Okay.
Tom.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, for Colin, because Colin did all the great work here. So, and Colin, thank you for joining us from Northern Ireland. Colin, I really appreciate you staying up later. Well, I guess you wouldn't go to bed yet, but appreciate you being here. Great work.
Yeah. Thank you both, and we do have a survey that we're asking any of the attendees to fill out. So if you all wouldn't mind taking a couple minutes to fill out that survey, that would be great. And Tom, it actually does look like there is one question.
I think there was a question about code availability. We are happy to share. If you contact either one of us directly, we can work with you to get you source code. We're happy to share with folks, as long as you're not going to sell it to somebody. Was this developed in Visual Studio using the Blackbaud SDK? Yes, 100% built in Visual Studio with the SDK. I think that's it. All right. Thanks very much. Thanks, Matt.
I'm going to launch that survey. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. And Tom and Colin, great presentation. And thank you all again.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Colin. See you, man.
Thanks. Bye.